Yeah, I just thought about something. Is it possible that the reason why we hit puberty at around the age of 13, between 11 and 14, we reach that age because that means that we're sexually uh, responsible enough to be able to pass down our genetics? Now, when I say responsible, I'm basically saying that you have the ability and it's a cause of your actions, whatever comes from it, right? So if I'm thinking about the fact that we reach sexual maturity, boy, that's a tongue twister. Sexual maturity by the age of 13, right, on average, right? If I'm 13 and I'm able to make babies, that means I gotta be able to take care of them too, right? Just logically speaking, I'm not talking about like economically, financially, or anything like that. I'm just saying, in as far as how nature works, if somebody's able to be a mother or a father to conceiving another life form, right? If they have sex, then it's clear that if there's another life that could come out of it, obviously that means that we're capable of using it to our advantage, and of course the children, or the byproduct, or the of the combined energies is able to be born. So if you have specifically, I'm talking about humans, but this of course will work in just energy exchange in general. But when you're spending your time and you're wanting to basically grow up and you want to get to the next level, you want to achieve something new in life, when people do these things, whenever they're starting, a lot of the time, for some reason, it's like people accidentally teach the young that adulthood starts once you hit like 21 or 18, right? Normally those are the ages where it's like, okay, you're fully responsible to make your own choices, right? But based off of nature is making it clear that we're able to really be this adult and self-accountable and responsible since we hit puberty. Because if we're able to create life, that's the most powerful thing you could do. So if I'm able to make a baby, I got to be able to do everything else that an adult, a responsible, mature authority figure can make. Like, I got to be able to make those choices. Like, come on, bruh. So for some reason, people are teaching their kids to basically grow up once they hit like 21. Now, I'm not saying grow up when it comes to like super materialistic stuff, right? Like, supposed to be like, oh, you gotta have a job and have enough money to be able to take care of your kids and all that. I'm not talking about all of that, because life figures itself out, especially when it comes to people's needs. So what I'm talking about is the simple fact that when we're growing up, if we're actually thinking that we started adulthood freaking 8 years later after we actually did, bro, we mentally could be retarded, right? Like, and I mean like slowed down or delayed. So if we're really thinking about how the way nature is and what aligns with nature, if we have these lives where we're able to clearly make babies while we're around age 13, if most of us are able to do that, if that's what's considered the norm, right? That's what's normal. That's clearly adulthood. If you ask me, at least, you can leave in the comments if you agree with this, but that, in my opinion, is clearly adulthood. So what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that with my children and people that I communicate with, I'm gonna make sure we're on the page, especially people in my tribe. I want to make sure we're on the page of making sure that by the time this child is 13, 14 years old, if they're able to make a baby, they also need to be able to do everything else an adult could do too. Like, an adult can do it, and if they can do it, a 13-year-old can do it, bruh. Like, you just got to actually be taught. You got to learn, whether you taught by yourself. You could definitely teach yourself things and just learn from experience, but also, of course, one's influencers and one's those who the child admires and people of those. So just think about it, because if you don't even step into adulthood until you're freaking 25, right? Because you've been in school your whole life, literally since you were 3 years old, right? So technically, you haven't even really experienced real adulthood the whole time. This is just based off of the fact that I'm saying that school is still a controlled environment, and that's the biggest concern, right? if we know that adulthood really supposed to be about freedom and liberation, I don't think anybody would debate with me about that. So if you know that adulthood is being able to be grown and do what you want to do, like, come on, bro, you're really able to do that once you hit around age 13, once you start growing pubic hairs and stuff like that. This is just how I think. I think people are being programmed somehow into thinking more young and less mature. Because if you actually started entering into quote unquote adulthood, when it comes to the things that you know about adulthood, if you just already could find out most of this stuff when you were younger, right? If you started learning these things when you were actually sexually mature, 13, 14 years old, right? If you really did learn how to be a mother then, I'm not saying make babies then or anything like that, but if you learn how to be a father then, if you learn how to actually be a functioning adult who is able to monitor family, if you become this person at a much younger age, you could actually get a lot further. Because if we did think like this, you got to think we will be several more years ahead as far as being advanced mentally, right? And if they got high aptitude for good decision making and critical thinking and like just decision making in general, just being able to make decisions, like being able to make up your mind, that's a real skill. And obviously adults will have to do this on a daily basis in order to survive. So, and that also my main thing is also take care of their loved ones and their children. So knowing this, we really should be starting to think about the more nurturing natures and responsible natures that come with adulthood once we hit around sexual maturity. Because I feel like people are unintentionally showing people that adulthood doesn't start until you get done with school. And I think school is probably one of the easiest ways to influence people's thinking based off the agenda of those who wrote the curriculum. So if for some reason, somebody's bias ends up rubbing off in the things that they're teaching you in school, and then the whole time you were really supposed to be an adult, but instead you were a student, like it just, I could see how it might benefit somebody on a survival standpoint to start sooner, like start adulthood sooner. And I'm not saying like, oh, your kids hit 13, you kick them out the house and tell them they're on their own. Like, no wild stuff like that. Come on, bro, just think. So if it's, you got these kids, you need to show them by the time they're that age, they need to know how to run your house. They need to know how to change a tire. They need to know how to change their own oil. They need to know how to clean the house, get the groceries. They need to know how to pay the bills or whatever it is that your household requires. All of those things, like everything it takes to be a functioning adult in the village, that's what it takes. Like, bro, it's the collective mentality, though. You got to be willing to collaborate with your family. And for some strange reason, I see so many families that don't work together on their endeavors. And it just, like, it really blows my mind. Like, people need to work together. You're born into a family of people who have a lot more in common with you than you can pay attention to in just this one reality. Because there's so many universes and dimensions that we exist in, right? And there's no questioning that. And if you want to question it and you want to just figure it out, you could always watch an astral projection video. I got a few of those on my channel if you want to learn how to travel to other dimensions and, see parallel universes and all that cool stuff. Because it's definitely real and you should try it and then get the experience and tell me how it was. But anyways, all right, cool. Thanks. Love y'all.